afterwards for those who are unable to attend. So, welcome to fall. What year is this? Oh, 2019, right? Yeah. So this is fall semester 2019. Um, I'll have students here from both engineering 1030 and engineering 1040. Um, these two courses are identical for the first 2/3 of the semester. You will all have the same homework assignments, all directly out of MATLAB. You'll have two exams during that period. After the second exam, if you are in 1030, you will continue through the rest of the semester in MATLAB, whereas 1040 will go into Excel. Now, hopefully, I have Canvas all set up to where if you're in one class, you're only getting those assignments. One of these days I'm going to make a list so that each semester I can go through and check it off to make sure that I've done everything I need to. But it's already been pointed out that I made one foobar this semester, but it has been fixed. There was a link to the if you went into the start here, the syllabus links were broken. They went. See, what I do is Holly has a development site for Canvas set up with everything already in it and ready to go, and I just copy that into mine, and then I go through and take out everything Holly and put in art and fix things that need to be fixed. Well, I forgot to fix the syllabuses. They were pointing to Holly's syllabus instead of mine. So those I hope have been fixed. I know the schedules are fixed. So if you do find any issues of links that don't work or documents that don't come in when they're supposed to, please let me know and I will fix them. I am able to fix most things from my office if they get broke. I do check emails throughout the day, and I can assist and also repair Canvas issues if they should arise. So again, welcome to this class. As far as the homework for this semester, it is due. All the due dates are posted on the calendar. That was another thing that's pointed out. The quiz had the wrong days. That too has been updated. I think the homework is due on Sunday, and the practice exercises are due on Thursdays, as well as the quizzes. Yes, it looks like practice exercises are Thursday, homework is on Sunday. Don't tell anybody, but I'm a little lenient on the very first assignment. Allow you guys time to get up to speed on how things work on my Canvas site, so I don't mark the first one late. But after that, I will start marking them late. I take 20% off. This class is very homework intensive. If you fall behind, it is very, very difficult to get caught back up. So hopefully losing 20% of your homework assignment is an incentive to make sure you stay up on the homework. If you get into the homework and you find you're having problems, by all means, please send me a message. Post it in the discussion. Maybe your classmates are having the same problem and you can work it out together. There's nothing more saddening to me than to get a homework assignment turned in incomplete with the note saying I didn't understand how to do this. That's what I'm here for. That's what I get paid for. I don't have to lecture to you guys every day, so I really feel like I'm stealing from the community college by teaching this class and getting paid for it, because I really don't do much. But I do help you guys out as much as I possibly can. My goal is to see that you guys learn this material, and I'll do what I can to see that it gets done. So use me, abuse me, throw me out with yesterday's trash. I'm fine with it. I got a good therapist. So let's see here. What do we got? Okay, exams. We'll cover all this stuff and then we'll get into MATLAB. Exams. There are 3 exams in this class. There's the first exam covers, I believe, the first 5 chapters of the book, 6 chapters. The first chapter really doesn't count. It's just an introduction into MATLAB. And then the second exam will go through assignment 10. I don't want to say that the second exam doesn't cover the material in the first exam, because the first material in the first exam is a build-up to learn how to do the stuff for the second exam. The focus will be mostly on the material learned in the stuff after the first exam, but I mean, you learn the basics in the first exam that you got to use in the second exam. The final, again, will for MATLAB will consist mainly on the material learned after the second exam. For Excel, there will be no MATLAB on the final. It'll all be Excel. The exams will be given, if you took the welcome quiz, they will be given in the testing center. You must schedule a time prior to going in. You'll have 2 hours to take the exam. It is open book. For the MATLAB, the testing center will provide you with an e-copy of the textbook. In the beginning days, we allowed students to bring in their own textbooks, but a few students got a little carried away with notes on the sidelines of their books, and one went in with just about every void space in his textbooks filled with notes. My view on this is if you got to spend time looking through your textbook to learn how to do the problems, you're going to not have enough time to finish the exam. As far as the textbook for Excel, we do not have an electronic copy, so you will be able to take in your own textbook as long as it's not written in. If it has been written in, the testing center will not allow you to take it into the exam. There's also been some new changes going on at the testing center. I've been getting emails. I'll post those changes in an announcement. If you're going to the Redwood campus, there's not a whole lot of difference. It's pretty much the same. The other campuses, there's some changes in the hours of operation and some other stuff. What else we got? Okay, so this is MATLAB. I'm running here, looks like I'm outdated. This is MATLAB 2019A. If you happen to have a version 2012, you can still use that version of MATLAB. The stuff we're doing in this class, except for the live editor. Live editor, I believe you need 2016B or newer before you can get into the live editor. All the exams will be issued in live editor, so make sure you're familiar with it. Another thing is, being at the testing center, all the computers there are PC, so if you're using a Mac, make sure you're familiar with PC before you go into the testing center. They will also be using All Access. Yeah, I think it is All Access. Maybe they have MATLAB on this. I know SolidWorks is All Access, but it still wouldn't hurt to be familiar with All Access before you go into the exam, because I don't want you guys wasting your time trying to figure out how to use the computer and access All Access to do your work. Man, mind is a terrible thing to lose, and I lost mine a long time ago. They might have MATLAB on the computers there at the testing center. I'll find out. I'll email the testing center and have them refresh my memory. So you'll take the test there. You'll submit it through Canvas. You can take in a piece of paper, or they'll give you a piece of paper to write on. No notes, no old homework. If you do take scratch paper, they'll gather it up when you leave and shred it. Okay. So again, this is MATLAB. So now you're in MATLAB. Now how do you do this to do your homework? I don't know. You're the teacher. You tell me. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you because I'm the teacher. So when you're in MATLAB, there are several ways to start your homework. Okay, if you get into the book, it tells you that you can write right in the command window. This is the command window. If you enter a code and hit enter, it has been executed. So now if you look in the workspace, R is assigned the value of 3. It is a 1 by 1. Okay, so this does exactly everything you tell it when you tell it to do it. If you tell it to do it correctly. So, okay, you can do your homework this way, but if you turn it in this way, I will return it ungraded because I can't. I need to be able to execute your code in order to grade it. Well, how do we do that? Okay, I will show you how to do that. There are two ways. The way we've been doing it for years and years and years is with an M file, and that you can gain several ways. You can click on this button up here that says new script. This will open the editor and we'll create something called an M file. Let me get, okay, oh, we'll do that too. So this has created an M file. So now if you come in here and if we do that same code, we do R equals 3 and area equals pi times the R rated is to the 2. Okay, you'll notice it's not executing it, and that's because it's in this file. Now, in order to execute it, there are several ways to do so. For one, you can come up here and hit run. Okay, if you hit run, it's going to want you to save it. And this we'll cover in just a minute, so we're going to bypass that. So another thing you can do is run section. So we'll get into that in a minute when we get into cells. So running section will run the current section of code that is active. And you'll notice over here that we have our, and now the thing about doing it over here is if okay, well that's not supposed to be 3, it's supposed to be 7. You come over here and hit that and rerun it. Now it's been updated. Okay, if you're doing it over here, if you go R equals 3, enter, and area equals pi times R raised to the 2. Oh, wait a minute, R was supposed to be 7, so now you gotta go back and do R equals 7. And then an easy way to get to it, if you hit the arrow up button, it'll go through the previous codes and you'll get to pi and recalculate it. Okay, so over here in the command window, if you're doing it, you have to re-enter everything, you have to re-execute everything, and if you've got a whole line of code here that you're doing, that's very tedious to have to go back and re-execute all that. But by using an M file, you can easily just change that and rerun the code and it'll update. Now if you don't like all this stuff over here, you can easily clear that out every time you execute by putting a CLC. That clears the command window. So each time you get a nice clean window over here and you can see what your code is presenting. If you look in the workspace, you can see the variables that have been assigned a value, the value they've been assigned. If you want, and I highly recommend, okay, let's get into cells. What's a cell? Okay, a cell is, you can divide your M file into cells, and by doing this you can execute one cell at a time. So if you've got 15 cells in there and you only want to run one little piece of it, you can execute just that single cell. So how do we create a cell? Okay, that is very simple. You start off your cell with 2% signs and a space. Okay, make sure you put the space, and then you can do a note after that so you know what's in the cell. And that's it. So that's how you create a cell. So now we'll come down here. You notice that's all yellow up there. If you can see the yellow in your computers, it would do a double percent sign. Now you see it created a new cell, but if I put a note in here now, it's no longer a cell, it's a comment. But if we put a space, then it knows it's a new cell. So now let's put some code up here. We'll say t equals 7 and R equals t raised to the 5. So if we execute this code, so if we hit the run section, it's only going to run what's in this cell, and because we don't have a clear the command window, it's just going to add it to the bottom of that. So we'll run that, and so, oh, I didn't raise, I times. Okay, that's fine. But see, it didn't clear this out here. If we come up here and run that section, so it's just run that section. Now, another option is run in advance. This will run that section and advance the control down to the next section. That's very handy when you're grading homework, because I can sit there and run advance through all your code, and I know what the output's supposed to be, and if I don't see what I'm supposed to, then I can go back and look and see why there's a problem with your output. Okay, so this is one way of running the code. Another way of running it is if you come in here and right mouse, you can evaluate the current section. Current section. You can highlight specific text. Let's say I just want to run this, highlight that, and do evaluate selection. And if you're into just using keyboards, if you hit Control Enter, it'll execute. If you hit Control Shift Enter, it'll execute and advance. Okay, so those are ways to execute your code. Hopefully I'm keeping up. If you got questions, by all means chime in. I'll answer anything as we go here, and or the chat window. I'll keep an eye on the chat window if you want to post questions in there. If I'm going too fast, say, hey stupid, slow down. Okay, so one very important thing before you start doing your homework, and that's the current folder. You should set up your current folder to wherever you plan on storing your homework. This is important, especially when we get into doing user-defined functions and loading data files, because MATLAB will default to the current folder looking for those user-defined functions and data files. The way to set your current folder is if you click on this folder over here with the arrow down, it'll bring up this little pop-up window, and you can just navigate to wherever you want your current folder to be. I have this MATLAB online, and so now this is all the files that I have in that current folder. Okay, so again, it's very important to set this up when you're doing data files. I demonstrate, but I can't be, yeah. We'll get to that here in just a couple weeks when we start doing data files and user-defined functions. So okay, so now that we're in our our current folder, we're going to save this. So we'll come up here and do a we should be able to do just a save, and it'll pop up the window. It opens it up in my current folder, and we'll give it a name. Now when you're naming files in MATLAB, it is very, 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 very important that you use the proper variable formatting for file names, meaning it must begin with a letter. You can only use letters, numbers, and the underscore. You can't use special characters. You shouldn't use the dot, the period, because that thinks it's getting an extension or formatting. Just letters, numbers, and the underscore. So so we'll call this demo. How many demos do I got there? Let's call it VII. Okay, and then you're wondering, well, why does it matter if why does it have to have a valid file name? Well, because if we clear the screen here, you can now go and type in the name of that file, and if you do it properly, it will, not with an O, there you go, it'll go in and open up that file and execute it. And if it's not a valid file name, it won't do it. It can't do it. And also, in the recent versions of MATLAB, if you try to save it as an invalid file name, so like if, let's say I wanted to put an @ sign on it, it will come up with an error window, say it will not be able to run it because of that. So it gives you the option to correct the file name before you save. Okay, so a couple of things you're going to run into on this first assignment that might be a wee bit confusing, because MATLAB is, as far as I know, it's one of the things that's peculiar to MATLAB, and one of those is the dot, or the element operator. What's an element operator? Well, I'll tell you. An element operator is just a period before mathematical functions, to which you cannot perform that function on a matrix. For instance, let's say that instead of 9 we had values 1 through 9. Okay, by putting 1 colon, or that's colon 1 colon 9, that's going to create a vector of 9 values of 1 through 9 spaced by 1. Okay, you'll learn that in the first homework assignment. So now we have a vector, but if we try to raise a vector to square, it won't do it because it's not the right size. Matrices, if you're familiar with matrix math, have to be of a given size in order to multiply them together, and a vector is not of the right size unless it's singular, a scalar. So, but we're not wanting to square the matrix, we want to square each element of R. So by doing a simple dot in front of the caret to raise to the square, MATLAB will now go into R and square each individual element. So we see here that we're 1, 4, 3, 16 all the way up to 81, which is the square. So now MATLAB can do this code, whereas if we didn't have the dot, we just get an error. Okay. Another good programming tip that I try to give my students, get in the habit of clearing out the command window, and also do a clear, which clears all the variables in the workspace at the beginning of each new problem. Okay, if problem 2 works off of problem 1, then I wouldn't do this, but if it's a completely different problem, do it. Why, do you ask? I'll tell you why. Because when you got a homework assignment here with 15 problems in it, and you declare R to be 1 through 9 in problem 1, and then you get down into problem 14 and think you're assigning R the values of 200, but you forgot to do it, your code will still execute, but it's not going to give you the right results because R was defined clear back here in a totally different problem. But whereas if you clear it each time, you'll notice that when I execute this, it's going to make those all go bye-bye. So now R has no value. So if you're struggling with your homework and it's not putting out the answers you know it should, that would be the first thing to check. Did I clear the variables before the problem began? Okay, let's say you don't want to have all these things posted to the command window. You just want the final answer. You can do that, and also if you'll notice over here this little orange tick, if you put your mouse on it, it'll come up and say terminate statement with semicolon to suppress the output. Okay, that's fine on all of these calculation lines. Put a semicolon in there. Okay, you will not get the output from that, but please do not put the semicolon on all the lines, because when I run it I don't see anything. There's nothing. There's no way for me to tell whether the code is right or wrong, so then I have to go back through and remove all your semicolons. So on all your calculations and declaration lines, by all means, if you want to put semicolons on them, I'm more than happy to have to allow you to do that. But on the final calculation, I need to see the output to the command window, so please do not put semicolons on that line. Okay, so what do you turn in? Oh, and then after this we'll look at the live editor. So when you're turning in your homework, you want to submit the .m file. That's what I need. I don't, when we get into data files, I don't need the data files because I have all of them. Unless you've changed the name of the data file. If you use the name of the file as is called for in the textbook, then I'll need to have your new data file. But if you're using the defaults, I've already got them all. As you're working along, you'll notice this .asv file, and you're going to wonder, what is a .asv file? I will tell you what that is. Oh, are there other commands like clear or clear clears the variables, CLC clears the command window, CLF will clear figures. Those are the ones that we'll use in this course. Okay, so back to the ASV. ASV file is an automatic backup that MATLAB makes. So let's say for some reason this file became corrupt and you can't open it anymore, and you're like, oh dang, I just lost 7 hours worth of homework. So what you'll do is you'll come to this .asv file, and I'll have to change the name of it over here because it already got one there, so we'll just add an O over here. But if you change the ASV to an M, you'll get back everything that was there the last time MATLAB did an automatic backup. Will it be everything? Probably not, but a whole bunch is better than nothing at all. So fortunately in this one I got the entire file in. So be aware of that. I don't need the .asv files. They're for your benefit. Again, if you have a crash or something happens to your file and you're unable to open it, look for the .asv and try to recover as much as you can. What did I forget? I think I've covered everything that I normally do on the first day. Are there any questions, wants, needs, desires, concerns, complaints? I will hold this online session every Thursday night at 8 unless something comes up that I can't make it. And I can tell you right now that Thursday, September 5th, I will not be here. I am a volunteer at Comic-Con, and I will be down at the Salt Palace on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I'll try to hold the online session on that Wednesday, the 4th. I highly recommend, if you've got $100, buy the software. Not only will it do you good for this class, but the future classes in your engineering courses. I know that when I took finite element analysis up at the University of Utah, it was very heavy in MATLAB. MATLAB is a great tool. If you're in the 1040 class, I believe, at least they have in the past, and I don't see why they wouldn't, but the community college offers every student a copy of Microsoft 365, which gives you the basic suite of Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and I think maybe even Access, but I'm not sure. It's a student copy for you to keep for $100. Now you can get a $50 version of MATLAB, but it doesn't have some of the toolboxes that we'll need. Basically the symbolics. When we get into symbolics math, you'll need that toolbox. But if you do buy the $100 pack, I think you'd be better off. And you can get that through mathworks.com. It's a download. For what I I was just using a basic student version when I was doing the finite element analysis. The Thursday before the week of the exams, the online session, I will go through a previous exam on this session, and I will work it for you. I will also provide you with a copy of the exam for you to go through at a later time, either with or without the video. And I'll also provide another exam with the solutions, because I've been doing this for so long. I've got a whole bunch of previous exams, so I don't have any problems with handing them out with the solution. I don't understand Holly. Holly puts out the exam, but she doesn't give the solutions. And to me, I think if you're struggling, it's better to have the solution to look at to see what you're struggling against, and than to just sit there and beat your head against the wall. Why isn't this working? But I'm not criticizing Holly. Holly's been a dear friend. So. Right. 1030 does not have the Excel portion, but they do also have a lab 1035 that is required. So if you're in 1030 and you have not registered for 1035, you need to register for 1035. That gives you an opportunity to get in and play with the Lego robots and do some programming using Simulink, which is a add-on into MATLAB. It's really cool. And I believe, yes, because your 1035 scores will come into my Canvas at the end of the semester as part of your final grade. And I believe mechanical engineers are required to take 1035, whereas everybody else takes 1040. But it gives you a chance to go play with the robots.